What's poppin', mangoes? This is your boy Blackgender back with another episode, and today's video describes one of the most dangerous and questionable decisions of my entire trip. So if you're here for the wholesome content, this is not the video for you, but let's jump back into Thailand.
Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not bad.
Get fired up! Before we begin, let me remind you guys that drugs are extremely illegal in Thailand, and just failing a drug test is enough for them to charge you with the possession of narcotics. Shroom shakes are pretty popular in Thailand despite them being extremely illegal. Many businesses that sell shroom shakes actually operate above the law by providing bribes to local law enforcement, but even the safest of establishments need to have the occasional sacrifice. So even if you know 100 people, 100, even 200 people who got away safely at this place, you might be the next sacrifice. So please keep that in mind when you make any decisions in Thailand and everywhere else in the world. I was supposed to leave Pai yesterday, but I booked an extra night because I thought things were going pretty well with that girl who hurt me yesterday. But today I'm wrong, depressed, and stuck in bed until 2 in the afternoon. I came to Pai to try and find the shroom shake, so that was going to be my mission for the day, but it was going to be a little hard because I was still too scared to rent a moped. I got help today from a friend I made yesterday, Emil from Germany, and even though he didn't really want to try the shroom shakes, he had a moped and was more than happy to help me try and find them. The first place I went to was this place called the Pai Backpackers Paradise, and from what I've been told, this was the best and safest place to get shroom shakes, but when I got there, the hostel owners told me that they had just sold out of their shrooms yesterday, but they were willing to tell me the farm that they got their shrooms from. Emil and I drove like 15, maybe 20 minutes to this elephant farm hidden up in the mountains, and when we got there, we told them we wanted some shrooms, we told them who sent us, and the farmer said he'd be back in like 10 minutes with the shrooms for us.
20 minutes later.
About 20 minutes later, the farmer comes back and he gives me this bag and it's filled with shrooms. And let me remind you guys that I have never seen shrooms or tried shrooms before, so I have absolutely no reference for sizes or prices. And if I had to take a guess, I would say it was about a quarter pound of shrooms. And I'm going to insert a picture right here to show you about how much it looked close to. They wanted to charge me 600 baht for this pile of shrooms, but I talked them down to 500 because that was all I had on me. Me and Emil took the bag and hopped back on the moped. Before I continue, let me just say, I've been in Thailand for about 10 days at this point. I haven't seen a single police checkpoint in this entire time, so I had absolutely every reason to believe that me and Emil were going to be safe for our 7-minute trip back to the hostel. So it came as even more of a surprise when I turned a corner about a minute down the street from the farm and I see an entire police force just blocking the road with their lights on. So I'm on the back of a moped, I'm holding this like thick bag filled with illegal drugs, and I see cars in front of us and they're like letting the cars stop for half a second and letting them pass, no issues. So I have a split-second decision to make. I can either throw the bag to the side, hope they don't see me, and come back for it later on in the day, or I can hide it under my jacket, go through the checkpoint, and hope that they don't check me like they didn't do the cars in front of me. We get to the checkpoint and immediately the police wave us down and they ask us to pull off the road. My heart is pounding at this point because the first officer, he pulls Emil off the bike and starts patting him down. I have a pillow underneath my armpit. I'm not hiding that. So when he comes to me, I'm like, let me stop you there. So I just handed it to him. I gave it to him. My goal was to start off on as good of a note as possible, and that meant being as honest as possible immediately. But now I'm standing in front of 10 Thai police officers. They're passing around my bag full of shrooms, and they're just talking to each other in Thai. I had absolutely no idea how bad this could get, but I'm just crossing every single part of my body, just hoping for a miracle. There was one main officer talking to us, and the rest of them dispersed to continue their roadblock. He took away our phones and our cameras and turned them off to make sure we were not recording anything, and then he finally asked us where we got the shrooms from. So we said we got them from a farm down the street, that they were just mushrooms for cooking, and that we were heading home to make some lunch right now. But the officer didn't really buy that, so he got pretty serious, and he was like, okay, you have 2 options. You can either be arrested right now, be detained for a few weeks before you finally see a judge, and then either you'll be put in jail for a few years, or if you're lucky, you'll be deported and banned from ever coming back to Thailand. Or I can go talk to my supervisor for you and see if there's any way that he'll let you go in exchange for some money. A bribe. Of course, we choose the second option, so this guy, he goes into the middle of the street, he starts talking to this really big, intimidating looking Thai officer, And he comes back like a minute later. He's like, okay, you can give us 15,000 baht, 500 American dollars, or what I've learned is 1 month's salary. He said we can pay them this, and then we can be on our way. Well, we didn't have 15,000 baht on us. No sane human being would walk around with that much cash on them, and my credit card was still not working. And that's when I realized that my card had no PIN number, which meant that I was gonna have a major problem for these next 3 months. But that's an issue we're gonna get into in future videos. So I asked Emil to go back to the hostel, get his money, and I would pay him back. I felt really bad for dragging him into my antics, and I really did not want him to have to pay for this. So Emil drives back to the hostel, and a police car follows behind him, close enough to make sure he goes directly to the hostel, but far enough back to make sure that he doesn't get in trouble for taking bribes, because that's not legal either. The main officer sits me down in the back of his pickup truck, and he throws a bag of shrooms behind me. So he's talking to me for a while we wait for Emil to come back with the money, and there's really only 2 things that I distinctly remember him telling me. He was like, yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do in Thailand. You can go out, you can party, you can have sex with the ladies, just make sure you wear a condom. That's literally what he told me. He said, make sure you wear a condom, though. I was, what? I was like, thanks? Is that a normal interaction with the police? I don't know. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like swatting away all these bugs, and he's like, oh, do you want some bug spray? I got some bug spray up front if you want. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure, I might as well get something out of this. And I would get something out of this. Just wait. Also, while I'm sitting there, this car full of people drives by, and apparently they all recognized me from the bars last night. And they literally start screaming at me while these cops are here trying to keep a low profile, doing me a favor. And they're like, hey, Black Ginger, what's up, bro? Are you good over there? And they know me as Black Ginger because whenever I go to the bars, I give people my Instagram, and that's just how they remember me. They're like, oh, Black Ginger, okay, that's funny. That. It's easy to remember me as the Black Ginger. I tried to tell them that I was fine, but they just like pulled off the road a little bit and waited for me. And I guess the police were getting pretty nervous because one of them went up to their car, and next thing I know, the car's driving off into the distance. Emil was gone for about an hour before I finally saw him riding back over the hill, and I was starting to think that he was just going to leave me there. And the same Thai officer was literally standing over me the entire time, just talking to me, watching me. The rest of the officers are in the street, making it look like they're conducting a legitimate traffic stop. When Emil finally parked, the moment I had been waiting for an hour was finally presented to me, and the officer who had been watching me the whole time finally walked away to go talk to Emil. So I look back, and my bag of shrooms is sitting right there in arm's reach. But there's like 10 Thai officers around me just waiting for an excuse to arrest me and take all my money. But, you know, I spent like $515 on these shrooms. There's no way I was letting them steal all of it. So I reach back to the bag, and I'm being very careful to make it look like my arm isn't even moving. And I feel for the top of the bag, but they like double knotted it shut. So I wasn't able to just reach in. I had to tear a hole open in the bottom of the bag, and I started stuffing my pockets just full of shrooms, just wet shrooms in my pockets. I got 2 pant pockets, 2 jacket pockets, all filled. Now all I gotta do is just get out of here safely. I was staring forward the entire time, trying to be subtle, trying not to look back. So when I was finally done stuffing my pockets, I looked back, and the entire back of the truck is now filled with like crumbs of shrooms. And the only way for me to fix this problem now was just to start like wiping the shrooms off and just praying they don't look over in my direction for the next 3 seconds, because there was no way I was hiding this motion. And luckily the shroom crumbs just hid wonderfully in the tall grass. The policeman finally called me over after talking to Emil for like 5 minutes, and I see Emil give him the money, and the man gives us back our electronics, and he's like, okay, make sure you don't turn these back on before you get back to your hostel, or we're going to pull you over for texting and driving. I don't know why the passenger, was scared of this, but my pockets were pretty hot right now, and I didn't want to take any extra risks. I waited until we got back to the hostel to tell Emil that I stole the shrooms back, because I just did not want him to panic while we were driving. And later on that night, I washed the shrooms off as best as I could, and me and him shared them. Long story short, I feel extremely scammed because I didn't even get high off of them. I also came to the conclusion that the farmers probably set me up because there were just too many things that didn't add up. I guess I was today's sacrifice. And I felt like I paid like $515 for a pocket full of portobello mushrooms. Instead of letting this huge, literally the biggest L of my entire trip get me down, I headed to the bars tonight with some new friends I made at the hostel. We were like the first 6 people to reach Don't Cry tonight, so we just took some shots and waited for the rest of the crowd to roll in like 20 minutes. I met this beautiful girl tonight, Jasmine from Germany, and she was just such a sweetheart. She was in Thailand learning massage therapy, and we ended up hanging outside her hostel for a few hours before I finally headed back towards mine. Along the way back, it's probably like 6:30 in the morning at this point. I stopped at 7-Eleven to get a Toasty, and I'm talking to this guy outside, and he's also eating a Toasty, and he ended up giving me a ride back to my hostel on his moped. Toasties. I swear, you guys have no idea how many friends I made on this trip while I was holding a Toasty in my hand, but I think that's a good place to end today's episode. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Comment down below this game. Okay, I'm going to put a picture right here. You guys are going to choose 2 things off this list, and they're going to come and protect you, basically. And the rest of the list is on their way right now to hunt you down, so you better choose wisely. If I had to choose, I'm definitely going with the 10,000 rats and the 15 wolves. They're going to back me up, and I'm going to beat any freaking combination you throw at me. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching. Live forward, learn backwards. Peace.